Hello, welcome back to Team Turner Solutions. In today's video, we're going to be doing a full APA walkthrough. I've created this guide, but all of this information came from the APA 7th edition manual, and there will be times when you need specific information that there are just too many options to include in this guide, so you should refer to the manual. They can be found on sites like Purdue, or you can Google it, and some other sites at universities might come up. I'm just going to get right into it because we want the answers, right? We have questions, we want them answered, and we want to move on. The first question that people have is, well, when do I add in-text citations? Back it up. Two types of citations. There are in-text citations that you see in parentheticals, and then there are full citations that you see on reference pages. We're going to start with in-text citations. So these are the parentheticals that you make inside of an essay. When do you cite? You cite whenever you reference someone else's work, or in a research paper, a proposal paper, an argumentative paper, whenever you're making a claim that is based on a theory that has been supported by evidence in a study, article, journal, or any source from another person, you have to cite it, okay? Now, there are two ways to cite in APA. The first way is when you cite a paraphrase. A paraphrase is when you say what the source said, but you put it in your own words. An in-text citation for a paraphrased idea contains the author's last name, comma, the year the source was published. All right? It should look exactly like this. When you do a direct quote, and that's something where you copy and paste it and put it in quotation marks, the citation should include the author's last name, comma, the date, the publication year, comma, and the page number, P, period, and then the number. It should also be enclosed in parentheticals like this. For further solidification, let's take a gander at a sample paper on the Purdue website. Here we can see opening and closing quotation marks, and the parenthetical at the end has the page number. This parenthetical with paraphrase material and no direct quote only has the last name and the publication year, versus the last name, publication year, and page number for material that was directly quoted. Let me just make a disclaimer that I don't make these rules. All I'm doing is going over the rules with you. I don't know the reasoning behind them, but I do know that the format is intentional. So if you leave off a comma, or if you leave off the period here, if you swap the date and the page numbers, it's going to be considered wrong, and it's up to your professor or whoever is going to be looking over this paper to decide whether the error is grave enough to subtract points. Now, let's go over where to insert the in-text citations and a few other odds and ends about how they should be done. In general, APA citations go at the end of the sentence, regardless of whether it's a paraphrase or a direct quote, but you might notice that in some cases, a person will include a parenthetical citation within the middle of the sentence, and that's usually done when the quoted material is nestled. The quoted or paraphrased material is nestled into a bundle of information from other sources, and the citation for that particular piece of information could get lost. If you notice, this parenthetical is up at the beginning, and there are a lot of other citations and things at the end, but that could also be a preference thing. However, most in-text citations do fall at the end of the sentence. To quickly recap, we've covered the different types of citations, in-text versus full citations. We've covered how to format in-text citations, depending on whether it's a paraphrase or a direct quote. And now we're going to talk about formatting in-text citations with multiple authors. When you have two authors, you separate the author's last name with the and symbol, aka an ampersand. For APA 6, but most people are using APA 7. However, there are still some who prefer APA 6. In APA 6, if you have 6 or more sources, then you use et al. If you have 5 or fewer sources, you write down each author's last name, separating them all by a comma and using an ampersand before the last author's last name. Once you get to that 6th source, you use only the first author's last name, comma, et al, period, comma, the publication year. It's very important that when you're using et al, you don't forget the period after the al. Are y'all saying et al or et al? I think this is one of those soda pop buggy shopping cart things. In APA 7, 3 authors or more get et al. So see here, this is 3 authors, 3 different author last names. The citation is et al. Here, 5 authors last names, and the citation is still et al. Once you hit 3 authors, the citation uses only the first author's last name and et al. When you want to write the author's name within the sentence and not just use the parenthetical at the end, so for example, according to so-and-so, then you write the author's name and you put the publication year in parentheses. If you do this when you're paraphrasing, author's last name, publication year in parenthetical, paraphrase material. Nothing else has to go at the end of the sentence. If you're going to include a direct quote and still write the author's name within the sentence, then you do the author's last name, the year, the publication year in parentheticals, and then give the direct quote. At the end of the sentence, you'll need to include another parenthetical citation with the page number. So the only time you add an additional citation at the end of the sentence after you've used the author's name within the sentence is if there was a direct quote and you have to put the page number at the end of the sentence, the citation. Let's look at an example from our trusty dusty sample. According to the author, and then there's the name in parentheticals, and the parenthetical at the end has the page number for the direct quote, but directly after the author's name is the publication year. If there were no direct quote, there would not need to be an additional citation at the end. You only add the citation at the end if the author's name is in the sentence and there's a direct quote. As evidenced here, the author's name is in the sentence. We have our date in parentheticals. This is only paraphrase material, no direct quote, and there is not another citation at the end of the sentence. Now, some sources like videos, online web pages, and other similar sources might not have page numbers. And what you'll have to do is go to one of the trusted sites and look up how to do an in-text citation for a source with no page numbers. If it's a written source, some will use paragraph numbers, and some source types will just omit the page number altogether. In the event that you're citing a source with no author, you'll use the title in lieu of the author's name. Now, the way that you format the title will depend on whether you're citing a book, if you're citing a journal or a newspaper, or a video, a website, something that's standalone, then you will italicize the title, comma, publication year. But if you're using an article from a journal or a chapter from a book, then you put the title in quotation marks. Okay, so if what you're citing is within something else, then you enclose it in quotation marks. If what you're citing stands alone and is outside of itself, not nestled in anything else, then you italicize it. But you only do this if there is no author listed. If there's an author listed, always use the author's name and not the title. We know citations have to have the author's last name and the publication year, but what if there's no year, right? If there's no year, then you just put N period D period beside the author's last name, comma, N period D period for no date. If you stuck with me this long, thanks for watching, and join me in part 2 where we'll talk about level headings. Please like, share, and subscribe. Catch you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.